everyone, this is John. Welcome back to another episode of the Subcontinent. Our program covers the political, economic and social issues of a region which hosts almost 25% of the global population. We will try to explain the issues, break down controversies surrounding them and try to have some external perspectives from experts and people.
In this special episode for the martyrdom anniversary of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani, we will explore how the US state terrorism and assassinations are helping Takfiri terrorist groups thrive across the countries of the subcontinent, especially in Afghanistan and Pakistan.
The assassination of General Qasem Soleimani is one of the most significant and consequential turning points in the recent history of the region, and will have myriads of geopolitical implications for many countries across the subcontinent and for many years to come. The martyrdom anniversary of the commander serves as a reminder of how the United States military interventions and drone assassinations are aggravating the security of the region and empowering Takfiri terrorism.
General Qasem Soleimani was an icon of war against extremism, a beacon of hope for the people of the region, and the epitome of those who are bigger than themselves. Although he was martyred in the very early days of 2020, he was commemorated all year round as his influence on the world lingers beyond the boundaries of time and place.
एक रूहानी शख्सियत का जहन में आता है क्योंकि वो ईरान के जो थे बहुत ही आला शख्सियत थे और पाकिस्तान में भी उनको बहुत जाना जाता है दाइश
जनरल साहब का नाम सुनता हूँ तो एक खुशगवार सा लगता है उन्होंने अपनी जो जान का नजराना पेश किया इस्लाम की सरबुलंदी के लिए उन्होंने अपना जान का नजराना पेश किया
Washington used a drone to assassinate the commander of Iran's Quds Force, which is an elite division of the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps. The general, along with deputy head of Iraq's popular mobilization units and other companions, was targeted by the drone strike outside Baghdad International Airport on a direct order from US President Donald Trump on January 3, 2020.
क्योंकि वो उनके गले की हड्डी बने हुए थे ना उनको किसी चीज़ में कामयाबी नहीं हो रही थी जब तक वो थे इस वजह से उन्होंने उसको वो
Iran says the assassination was the biggest gift to Takfiri terrorism, highlighting that this is an act of international terrorism perpetrated against the most effective force in battles against terrorist outfits in the region such as Daesh, al-Nusra or al-Qaeda.
जो जनरल सलेमानी ने उनके खिलाफ काम किया उन्हीं की कोशिशों की वजह से इसका जो खात्मा है वो मुमकिन हो सका
Leader of the Islamic Revolution Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei has warned that severe revenge awaits the criminals who have stained their hands with his blood.
قاتل سلیمانی و آمر به قتل سلیمانی باید انتقامشون رو پس بدن.
The US says this was done for the safety of Americans, but how can they feel safe while they are worriedly expecting retaliation, especially around his martyrdom anniversary?
country or entity kills a senior official of another country in a third country. How come is the global community so unforthcoming about calling out and condemning terrorism only when it is done by the United States? Washington tries to justify its state terrorism under guises of self-defense and counter-terrorism. But almost all human beings, even American authorities and politicians themselves, are cognizant of the fact that using assassination drones on foreign soil is wrong, illegal, and unjust, to say the least.
Drone killings are blatantly against the international law, and assassinations of foreign leaders is still technically prohibited in the US under an executive order issued by President Ford in 1976 and still in force. The United Nations Charter only permits a military attack if an armed attack occurs on the defending nation, and the US Constitution only allows it in self-defense. None was the case here. Despite the Trump administration's efforts to make their decision look less illegal and illogical, the notion of preemptive self-defense sounds oxymoronic, both logically and morally. Washington has, for long, used assassination drones in violation of the international law. When the Obama administration was increasing the use of drone assassinations, right-wingers even criticized him for the practice, but Trump took it to a new level of lawlessness. He unleashed a flood of portentous implications for the world and compromised an already fraught investment of thousands of American lives and trillions of dollars in the region. It is not the first time the US leaders move to ignite the flames of war somewhere and then start lying to cover up their faulty analysis and their uncalculated actions. The Vietnam War was triggered based on lies about the Gulf of Tonkin incident, and the Iraq War was started based on a web of deceit about aluminium tubes, yellow cake uranium, and bogus ties between Saddam Hussein and Al-Qaeda.
Now, for more on this, we are joined by Mr. Firoz Bithiborwala, who's an activist and commentator. Mr. Bithiborwala, welcome back to the Subcontinent. So, many people around the world believe that General Qasem Soleimani played an important role in the fight against terrorism. The United States, however, assassinated the general last year, and the US president dared to call him a terrorist, while the terrorist group Daesh, in a statement, praised the assassination. What's your reading of all of this there in India?
Essentially, the United States of America, its military and the Pentagon and the CIA and the FBI is known for its terrorist activities within America and all across the world. The fact is that General Qasem Soleimani is the hero of the war against ISIS, of the terror of ISIS in Iraq and Syria, and he led the war against ISIS both in Syria and in Iraq, and defeated ISIS. That is the reality of the situation, and any good human being understands that matter. So for the Mossad and the CIA to assassinate General Qasem Soleimani and then they, calling him a terrorist and all is utterly ridiculous, because ISIS was built by the CIA, the Israelis, the Saudis, as well as by Turkish intelligence, and finally they have been defeated. Thanks to General Qasem Soleimani, who was actually the central figure in this entire war against terror.
All right, assassinating an official visiting another country on an invitation, sending drones to countries killing many civilians, and calling it collateral damage in their so-called fight against terrorism. And that is while the United States supported many Takfiri terrorists in Iraq, Syria, and elsewhere. We also saw them, quote, accidentally airdropping weapons to terrorists. Do we need them to do anything else to conclude that they are in fact involved in both state terrorism and state sponsoring of terrorism?
No, undoubtedly. America has an old record. Going back all the way to the South Americas, those countries have suffered a lot by the fact that they've supported militias and all kinds of terrorist activities in South America and across the world. Both in Syria and in Iraq, the evidence is so strong of their supporting ISIS and other Takfiri groups, including letting them smuggle the oil out of Syria into Iraq and Turkey and all the way into Israel. It is all, and into Europe. It is all very clear actually. They supplied ISIS in Mosul with the lead, the kind of arsenal that ISIS had was not of a terrorist group. ISIS is an army of terror, and they were funded and financed and weaponized by the Americans. So the evidence is also strong, and it was actually General Flynn who had said that ISIS is the willful creation of the White House. So ISIS was created by the CIA and the Mossad and by the Saudi intelligence. There's no doubt about it. Which is why General Qasem Soleimani was assassinated, because he was a central role in challenging the imperialist Zionist occupation of the region and their Takfiri allies. And which is also why America till date is not part of the International Criminal Court, because they are indulging in criminal terrorist activities, bombing, killing, assassinating, drone attacks. This has happened through every presidency, be it Republican or Democrat. In fact, someone like Chomsky said that practically every American president would be, tried for war crimes and would be declared a war criminal.
All right, Mr. Mithi Borwala, let's just take a quick look at how global media has covered this issue, and then we can continue.
The U.S. Central Command has said 2 B-52 strategic bombers had flown from their base in Louisiana to the Middle East to deter potential Iranian retaliation ahead of the anniversary of General Soleimani's killing. An Iranian military official promised a crushing and fiery response if U.S. bombers enter Iran's airspace. This came weeks after top nuclear and military scientist Mohsen Fakhrizadeh was assassinated in a sophisticated operation near Tehran. There has been no claim of responsibility, but Iran believes Israel and its intelligence agency Mossad were behind the attack. After the Soleimani killing, popular sentiment in many of the Muslim countries have become more anti-US. In case of an escalation, there could even be a public outcry in Pakistan to sever all ties with the US. In case of an attack on any of Iran's religious sites, it could be a nightmare for security and law enforcement agencies to stop people from marching towards the American diplomatic mission in Islamabad. One is reminded of an attack on the US Embassy in Pakistan in 1979 after the siege of Mecca, in which Washington was not even involved, but the rumor was that it had a hand.
Okay, welcome back, Mr. Mithi Borwala. Before we go on for the next question, let's just watch an excerpt from the US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo sharing with university students some of his memories from the CIA.
I was the CIA director. We lied, we cheated, we stole. It was like we had entire training courses.
So, are we correct to believe that they would not hesitate to lie as they deem necessary to justify their actions, as long as it suits their hegemonic imperialistic agenda?
Undoubtedly. I mean, it's just a rather simple question, and the CIA is known for its lies, for its disinformation campaign that it spreads to the American media and other international media like the BBC and other Western outlets. And they've infiltrated most of the media outlets of the world. 90% of the news that comes into our newspapers from foreign sources is controlled by these the media CIA complex. So, yes, I mean, you had Hillary Clinton, who clearly stated they've funded the Taliban, they've killed Gaddafi. I came, I saw, we came, we saw, we killed him. They've done it all over the place. So these are war criminals sitting in the White House. These are war criminals sitting in the Pentagon. But what we can actually see is, due to the resistance of the axis of the resistance in the region, led by Iran, by Iraq now, by the Lebanese resistance, the Palestinians especially been there for more than now 100 years resisting the Zionist occupation, the Yemeni Houthis, other nationalist anti-imperialist force in the region. The people of West Asia, of the Middle East, are unitedly standing up against the hegemonic imperial powers. Though it's sad to see, I mean, I'm not sad, it's very obvious, the monarchies who have gone along with Israel in the so-called normalization. But the people and certain governments of the region who are standing up to America and the Zionist occupation will eventually liberate this part of the world. And when Middle East and West Asia stand liberated, much of the world will be liberated, along with our friends in Bolivia and Venezuela who are fighting this very same battle.
Mr. Mithi Borwala, thanks a lot for being with us on our show. It was a pleasure having you here again. Viewers, now let's see how people on social media reacted to this situation.
Ali Kourani considers General Soleimani's kindness and good treatment of people as the main reason for his popularity among them. By posting a picture of Qasem Soleimani and Abu Mahdi al-Muhandis, Mir Murtaza shows his love and respect for them. Given the remarkable popularity of General Soleimani among the people, Gregory believes that the US has made an enormous mistake in assassinating this important figure.
The repercussions of the US assassination of General Soleimani are especially bad for the countries of the region, but they seem to be worse in some countries than others. Any escalation between Iran and the US opens the Pandora's box for the whole world. For some, the concerns are political or economic, but for some players closer to the center of fire, the result may be war and destruction, or even the resurrection of another terror empire in the region.
The reverberations of the US assassination of General Soleimani can spiral far beyond the region, making many countries pause to ponder their reaction and next move. They try to walk a tightrope of neutrality between Tehran and Washington over the fear of any escalation in the Persian Gulf region and disruption in the energy routes through which a majority of the crude oil and liquefied natural gas from the region travels to Asia. India has a lot of energy interests in the Persian Gulf and enjoys strong relations with both Iran and the US. Hence, the ramifications are widespread both in terms of foreign policy and economy. India, the world's third largest consumer of oil, is concerned about the effects of an escalating crisis on the price and flow of oil. Another concern is the situation of roughly 8 million Indian expatriates in the Persian Gulf. Any uncertainties about safety can affect the $40 billion annual remittances. India is also particularly worried about its massive investment in developing the Chabahar port in southeastern Iran, which it sees as a gateway to Afghanistan and Central Asia, and a way to bypass Pakistan.
Hailed both by the enemies and friends as an excellent military tactician, the IRGC commander topped Foreign Policy's 2019 list of global thinkers in defense and security. He was globally known as a key strategist, leading Iranian military advisors in assisting Syrian and Iraqi troops to dislodge Daesh and liberate key areas. Therefore, when Trump decided to make his assassination of Soleimani the centerpiece of US foreign policy, it is safe to interpret that Washington is on the terrorist side, paving the ground for the rise of a nascent Daesh in Afghanistan.
There is a lot at stake and in very different ways for Pakistan and Afghanistan, Iran's eastern neighbors at the western edge of the subcontinent. The unfolding crisis in the Middle East has the potential to shake the foreign policy priorities of Kabul and Islamabad, which will leave an impact on their economy and domestic security. Pakistan shares a 1,000-kilometer borderline with Iran and has the world's largest Shia population outside of Iran, but also is deeply dependent on Saudi Arabia, which provides direct financial assistance at strategic movements. Moreover, Islamabad is anxious not to annoy Washington and to leverage any increase in its perceived utility in Afghanistan. People in Afghanistan have known and loved General Soleimani since the mid-1990s, when he provided logistical support for the resistance movement against the Taliban and Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan, led by Ahmad Shah Massoud.
سردار سلیمانی یک شخصیت بزرگ جهان اسلام بود که در منطقه با تروریستان مبارزه میکردن و حامیان تروریست هم فهمیده بودند که تا قاسم سلیمانی در منطقه حضور داشته باشند اینها نمیتوانند به اهدافشون خود برسند، بنابراین اینها بسیار بیشرمانه و ناجوانمردانه ایشان را به شهادت رساندند.
President Ghani calls him a prominent figure in the fight against ISIL in the Middle East, while Karzai describes the general as a dignified person seeking peace and stability in Afghanistan. Now, Afghanis are distressed about the future of the war against Takfiri terrorism, with more possible conflicts looming on the horizon.
For more analysis on this, we are joined by Mr. Sarbaz Rullah Rizvi. He's a Kashmiri activist and political analyst. Mr. Rizvi, welcome back to the Subcontinent. So, what do you think? Were there motives and calculations in Washington when they decided to assassinate a high-ranking Iranian official?
Of course, United States of America and Washington, they have always tried to stop the Iranian influence at the region. And specifically speaking, the Iranian Quds Force, IRGC Quds Force, is one of those forces who were actually, against all the plans and the plots of the Americans at the West Asian region. So they were always trying to stop the influence of the Iranians via Special Quds Force of Iran, IRGC Quds Force of Iran. So they decided to eliminate physically the top Iranian commander, General Soleimani, who was actually leading the Quds Force of Iran. And the main calculation behind that was that they will be able to stop the influence of Iran at the region, which was actually speaking the main obstacle in front of the American plan for the new Middle East that they were looking after.
So you earlier said that the US and their military-industrial complex is trying to stop the Iranian influence. Whatever their plans, they were backfired by global public anger, which brought many people to the streets and rallies protesting the move, including in your homeland Kashmir. What do you think brought these people together?
General Qasem Soleimani was leading a force that was confronting simultaneously in two fronts. One was to fight against takfirism, to fight against those hardliners bearing the title of Islam and ruining the name of Islam, actually, such as Al-Qaeda or such as, ISIS, or so you want to call them. So Qasem Soleimani was actually fighting them. Qasem Soleimani was actually fighting for the cause of the Muslims who were the victims of the hardliners, being beheaded by them, being evacuated from their villages, from their homeland. So this was one dimension of General Qasem Soleimani. Another dimension was his struggle against the Zionist forces and Zionist regime being backed by the Westerns, specifically by the United States of America. So General Qasem Soleimani was fighting for the cause of the people of the region, for the cause of the people of the West Asian region, to fight against takfiris and hardliners, as well as the Zionists. And the people of the world, whole people of the world, they have sympathy with the victims of these two enemies, with the victims of the ISIS and the victims of the Zionists, which are the Palestinians. Specifically speaking, we people in Kashmir are those who are feeling so much of sympathy with the people of Palestine. So when Qasem Soleimani was doing his best to support the people of Palestine, so naturally speaking, when he was assassinated, when he was martyred by the Americans, there was a sort of anger among the masses and among the people of Kashmir, be them Sunnis or Shias, because they were feeling that this person was fighting for the cause of the Palestine, for the liberation of the Palestine, as well as fighting against those who are, bringing division in between the ummah, those takfiris who are actually, killing the Muslims at the first level, and then so-called fighting against others. They are those who are killing the Muslims. So that's why the people of Kashmir came to the streets, and the people of other parts of the world, they came to the streets to show their sympathy with the assassination. I was just few weeks after the assassination, I was in Venezuela, in Caracas. There I found people from across the globe who showed their sympathy, who told me that please convey our message of sympathy with the family of General Qasem Soleimani, with the people of Iran who lost this valuable person, because they were knowing that this person is fighting against terrorism and Zionism.
All right, General Soleimani was fighting for the victims. Thank you so much, Mr. Ruhollah Rizvi, for being with us.
Thank you so much.
And that was our special episode of the martyrdom anniversary of Qasem Soleimani. To watch bits of our episodes and more updates, follow us on our social media platforms, and please make sure to give us feedback about what you think. We'll meet the same time, same day next week. Thanks for watching.